All right, Travis, today we're going to talk about one of the most exciting topics in the investment world, the next generation of IPOs. Mm-hmm. Specifically, could SpaceX become one of the biggest IPO in history? Okay. And what other private companies could eventually go public here in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating discussion, Steve, because some of the world's most valuable and influential companies aren't public, given how big they can get in private markets these days. And in many cases, you've got everyday investors out there that they can't even buy these companies, right? Because they're not traded on public exchanges. And the company everyone's talking about right now, and rightfully so, is SpaceX.
Yeah, definitely, for good reason. SpaceX has revolutionized the launch industry, built Starlink satellites network, and become a critical player in both commercial and government space programs.
It's pretty impressive.
It is. Depending on the valuation you look at, it could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars as a private company.
Yeah,
I mean, that's unreal.
And as you alluded to, I mean, if SpaceX were to go public tomorrow, which I think by the time this airs, it might be hitting the market.
You're right.
It could easily become one of the largest and most anticipated IPOs ever. I mean, we're getting a ton of questions about it.
But SpaceX isn't alone. There are several private companies, investors are watching closely today that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, Stripe is one. It's become a major player in digital payments globally. Then you have Databricks. It kind of sits in the middle between artificial intelligence and the data revolution. And speaking of AI and what most people attribute to AI, you've got Anthropic, and it's become one of the most talked about private companies in the world, and they obviously create the tool Claude that a lot of people use.
Right, and Anthropic is interesting because it's compelling directly. It's competing, directly in the race to build advanced AI models. Mm-hmm. Investors are pouring billions of dollars into this company, and it's emerging as one of the leading challengers of that AI space, and you've used it.
I've used it quite a bit. I mean, I would say challenger. I'd say leader, based off of what we're using it for.
I've seen come out of it, it's impressive.
Yeah, and when people think about like the future of artificial intelligence, you've got companies like OpenAI, that's ChatGPT that a lot of people use, and Anthropic are often the center of the conversation because it's the easiest tool for the normal person is to get out there and use on your phone, on your computer, whatever it is. And they represent the kind of businesses that would attract enormous investor attention if they ever go public. They probably will go public, so the enthusiasm you're seeing about SpaceX, it's not going to die down, here over the next year or so.
That's true, and all of that, Travis, is exciting. There's no question, but we should probably introduce a word of caution here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because whenever investors start talking about IPOs, it's important to remember a simple truth. Some of the most anticipated IPOs in history have produced some disappointing returns. Listen, I was there during the dot-com bubble when all those companies were hitting the markets.
Brutal.
We saw some crazy stuff during that time frame. So,
yeah, we've seen the story play out before. Investors get excited about this compelling narrative and pile into a stock, and then discover that expectations were just simply too high, aka 2000.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why we encourage investors. I mean, let's try to separate the business from the stock. SpaceX. When it's all said and done, could prove to be an incredible business. Probably already is an incredible business.
Right.
Anthropic could, prove to be an incredible business. But the real question is whether what you're paying for that business actually makes sense. Are you buying the business or are you buying the enthusiasm?
Yeah. That's right. And it's especially important during periods of market enthusiasm. That's when people would want to go public. But IPOs tend to come in waves when markets are strong and investors are confident. Companies often choose that momentum to go public and get in front of it.
Well, what would you do? Would you IPO into a market with momentum or an enthusiasm, or would you?
Financial crisis?
Yeah.
No, I would not have.
Yeah. So again, that that's exactly when investors need to be the most disciplined. Is during this time.
Yeah. And so, Travis, what's the takeaways?
I think the takeaways here, Steve, is the next generation of IPO candidates. I mean, it's incredibly exciting, incredibly strong. SpaceX, Stripe, Databricks, Anthropic, and others, they could shape entire industries for decades to come.
Yeah, but don't let excitement replace the due diligence, which that's what we do. The best investments aren't necessarily the most popular ones. They're the ones where expectations and valuations leave room for the upside.
Yeah, and sometimes the best move after a highly anticipated IPO where everyone's trying to get their hands on it is to simply just wait, watch, and let the story develop. I mean, a lot of the value, like in SpaceX, has accrued in the private markets versus if you go back in time, your Amazons and other companies, they went public a lot earlier. So a lot of the value accrued afterwards. So it's not apples to apples here.
Hey, Travis, that's all for today. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and remember, just because a company is a company is great doesn't mean that the stock is automatically a bargain or a home run.
Yep, absolutely, Travis. It's been great. I look forward to it next week.
Look forward to it as well.